Well, you can imagine these were three assistant coaches. They had just tied a game against defending national champion Alabama 2 days before. And you can imagine these guys were going to work and they were all excited. They were looking forward to getting to work, and it was a great time to be at Tennessee and be a coach. And all of a sudden, they're gone. It was foggy, rainy, and the engineer did not see the car going across the track until he was 500 feet away. And no one knows whether Charlie tried to beat the train or what. And I think an interesting sidelight of that is that Charlie Rash, the driver, had a kidney stone late in the week before. And he didn't go to Alabama with the team. He flew down to Birmingham for the game on Friday night. Coached in the game, probably had Sunday off or may have gone into work. But you don't know, nobody knows how much medicine he might have had, how having that kidney stone affected his ability to drive. And there's just so many unknowns that you just have to guess.
Can you explain how this played out? Show us just what would have played out that day.
Well, the train was coming from Chattanooga, and as I said, it was 500 feet away when he first saw the car on the track. Put on his air brakes, broadsided the car on the right side, pushed it 96 feet off the track, and then the train continued for another 3/4 of a mile. And then all Dickens broke loose.
2 people killed instantly.
Bill Majors and Bob Jones were killed instantly. Charlie Rash lived till the next Friday morning. And it was just one of those deals you can't fathom, that within a second, a whole bunch of people's lives were changed. And each of those guys was a legend at their own school. Bob Jones was a legend at Baylor. He was a captain of the 1956 team at Baylor, helped beat Tennessee in the 1957 Sugar Bowl, 13-7. Charlie Rash was a legend at Missouri. He was all conference there. Bill Majors was the second of the Majors family to play football at UT. And I think Haywood Harris wrote after after it happened the next week for the program for the Houston game, Haywood Harris said it was enough to say that he was a Majors. That's how big the name Majors is in Tennessee and Big Orange Country. So you just never know.
You don't. And the response from Big Orange Country after the fact.
It was. They had a memorial service for the coaches at Church Street United Methodist Church. I don't remember how many people were there, but it shook the community, literally. I've watched Tennessee play football since we moved here in 1955. I don't know how many years that is, but I've watched that. I have never seen anything have that type impact on a community. I mean, to say that this community loves football and the University of Tennessee would be an understatement, but people still remember this and talk about it.
What is there to this day? Is there any memorial to these coaches?
Yeah, I sent John a picture of a plaque they put up somewhere in the Neal and Thompson Center of the 3 coaches, and that I wrote the copy for, and we presented it in 2015 at the 50th anniversary of the 1965 team, and I think they did a really good job with it. And that was one of the most interesting experiences I ever had, because these guys that played in '65 were very tight. They were very loyal to each other, and it was like a family reunion. There was one play where a defensive tackle named Derek Weatherford, who weighed all of 230 pounds, was chasing the quarterback in the backfield, and the quarterback was obviously faster than he was, but Derek closed the gap, and about a minute later, he finally tackled him, and it got cheers from the teammates in the audience. That's how close they were. It was the first really good team since 1957. Hadn't been to a bowl game since 1957, had several losing seasons, and Doug Dickey came in and turned it around in his second year, tied Alabama at Birmingham. Ken Stabler threw the ball out of bounds when he wasn't supposed to. He thought it was third down, threw the ball out of bounds. They'd come in, kick a field goal, and win the game. But it turned out to be fourth down. Tennessee tied the game. And after the game, Bear Bryant took his team back to the locker room and didn't know that somebody had locked the door, or so the legend goes, and he has his state trooper next to him. He said, "Shoot the lock off the door," and the guy did. And that's legend. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not, but there's all kinds of legends that come up in games like this. And in fact, Hal Wantland from Columbia, Tennessee, now deceased, told the press after the game, he says, "We didn't tie Alabama, Alabama tied us." That was his way of spinning that Tennessee actually felt like they won the game. The fan base felt like it was a win. And it was, I was all 17 years old at the time, and I remember that like it was yesterday. It just, I don't drive by here very often, but when I do, I just think about the coaches had to have been excited about going to work. And no one knows why, but they got in the way of the train. And those pictures I sent John will show you what happens when a train going 70 or 80 miles an hour runs into a Volkswagen. It's just sad to look at.
The train's going to win.
The train is going to win, and what can you say? See, we don't know whether that stop sign was there or not 68 years ago. We don't know that Rash coming down the hill may have said, "I've got to get across this track," and probably didn't see the train or felt like he could beat it. We just don't know that.
Yeah.
Everything is guesswork.
Absolutely, and we won't, in the end, know the answer. Do you have any questions?
3 quick questions.
Yeah.
Tom, keep looking at Robin.
Okay.
Tom, can you contrast what this place looked like in 1965 versus today? Because it was quite different, and I think people need to understand that.
There wasn't all the houses and property there is now. This would be out in the country back then. We wouldn't have had, I don't think half these houses were here. And this is really rural West Knox County. And I just think that anybody that lived there then would be surprised at what it looks like now.
The questions that I had, you touched on this, but for people who don't appreciate this, these 3 men that died were in their late 20s or 30 years of old. They were all family men. Can you talk a little bit about who these men were? They left behind people.
They left behind 3 wives. Each of them, they left behind, their wives became widows in an instant. And Doug Dickey, the football coach at the time, said he went to see Bob Jones immediately because Bob Jones had been here the shortest period of time. And Coach Dickey felt like he needed to be with him. He assigned the practice routine to his assistant coaches, and he worked with the families. And there was no other time where Doug Dickey stood as tall as he did in those 4 or 5 days from the time the impact of the train through the funeral and the Houston game. Now, Houston offered to cancel the game, and they really didn't know what they were going to do. And then Thursday, I believe it was Thursday, they decided we'll play the game. And there was, if you can believe this, there were only 34,000 people at the game, and I sent a tape of the pregame show, and it looked strange to see all those empty seats at the stadium, and the band was considerably smaller, and they came out in formation and played the national anthem just like they do now. And then they played the hymn, "Abide with Me," in memory of the coaches. And the interesting thing is that John Ward was doing the PA at the games back then, and that's the only tape we can find of John Ward at the stadium doing the PA. This is before he became the broadcaster and all that. So there's a lot of stuff that came out of this that really is interesting, and it if you're not careful, the tears will arrive before you really know they're coming. And it's Haywood Harris wrote that strong men wept unashamedly when talking about the three coaches. Haywood Harris had the ability to punctuate the moment, and that's what he said about it. Now, one more thing. Charlie Rash was the offensive line coach, and after the game at Birmingham, he wrote each of his linemen a letter that says, "Play like that the rest of the year and you'll go undefeated." They almost did. They lost one game coming down the stretch, but they won 5 or 6 more. And nobody looked at he said, "Don't look at the letter till the season's over." And after the Bluebonnet Bowl game in December 1965, the linemen opened those envelopes, and that's what it said, and the tears just came. That you know, a team is a very, what's the word? The team is it's hard to figure out what makes a team. Anything can destroy a team very quickly, but you don't build a team and have that kind of camaraderie. And that's what this team had. It was the first really good team after 8 years, and people talk about it in reverential tones. I mean, you talk about 1985, you talk about the national champion, but fans my age and older view this as one of the great teams because it was the first team that started winning again. And Doug Dickey and those players deserve that credit.